Hello and welcome to the Cornwall Report's news briefing for Monday, the 6th of April, the local media headlines today. There's something not quite right about this coronavirus story. Every day, the government tells us that if we do this or don't do that, then things will get better. But instead, they seem to get only worse. So what's the true story about what's going on in Cornwall? Are we actually better off than other parts of the country? Or, actually, per head of population, are we at greater risk of dying? The numbers still pose more questions than they answer. Indeed, the numbers are coming faster than we can report them. Another 3 deaths at the Royal Cornwall Hospital were confirmed yesterday. Meanwhile, the community hospital at Helston has had to close its minor injury unit in order to become Cornwall's palliative care centre for COVID-19. That'll put the wind up the GPs. And I know that nobody believes election promises anyway, but do you remember that brand new acute hospital which Cornwall was promised only a few months ago? The NHS is now being forced to spend its money in other areas. Well done to the Falmouth Nub News for picking up what is probably the first case of a doctor who's gone public after developing coronavirus. The medic was working on the front line at Falmouth Hospital and despite using protective equipment is now having to self-isolate, having passed on the infection to her daughter. The BBC had an intriguing piece about the gravedigger for Mount Hawke and St Agnes, who's having to prepare additional burial sites in anticipation of the coronavirus toll. Pirate FM reported on an accident involving a car and a tractor at Morn & Smith. A man suffered serious injuries. The Cornish Times is warning farmers to watch out for an increase in rural crime. And finally, Cornwall Live looks forward to all the unsocial distancing, which we can all get back to one day, probably. And those are the local media headlines for now. Thank you very much for watching. Do please share this video on social media. I'll be back again tomorrow. See you then. Bye-bye.